I never told my son-in-law. I was a retired Navy SEAL because I wanted him to see me the way he kept smiling at me. Soft, slow, harmless. That mistake almost cost my daughter her freedom. 10 minutes after she sent me her secret distress code, I was already in my truck, my hands tight on the wheel, reading her message over and over, like my eyes could change it into something safer. She had written, "Bring the blue box." That was our signal, not a joke, not a family habit. It meant she was scared enough to stop using normal words. By the time I pulled out of the driveway in Atlanta, my chest felt locked up so tight I had to force air into it. I did not call her back. I did not text. I knew better. If she used the code, someone was watching her phone or standing too close. My mouth went dry. My jaw hurt from clenching it. I kept seeing her face at Sunday dinner, smiling too fast, laughing too hard, and I thought, no, wait, that was not laughter. That was cover. Her husband, Dean Mercer, always called me sir, in that polished voice people use when they want to seem respectful while measuring your weakness. He was the kind of man who wore expensive watches and talked about leverage, investments, and winning the room. He had met my daughter at a charity event, bought her flowers the next day, and convinced everyone he was attentive. Me too, for a while. I let him think I was just an old father-in-law who spent too much time in his garden and too little time understanding men like him. Then I got to their house, and the front door was unlocked. That was the first thing that told me this was bad. The second was the silence. No music, no TV, no footsteps, just the hum of the refrigerator and a glass sitting on the counter, half full of water, with lipstick on the rim. My hand went to the inside pocket of my jacket out of habit, then stopped. No weapon. I had not come here for a fight. I had come for my daughter. I moved through the entryway slowly, every muscle awake, every sound sharper than it should have been. A chair was tipped sideways near the dining table. One shoe lay near the hallway. Her shoe. I heard her before I saw her. A small, broken sound from upstairs. Not a scream. Worse, a voice trying not to become one. I took the steps 2 at a time and found her in the bedroom, sitting on the floor, with her knees pulled to her chest, her phone cracked in her hand. Her eyes snapped to mine, wide and wet, and for 1 second she looked 12 years old again. Her lips trembled. She tried to speak, and nothing came out. Then she put a finger to her mouth and pointed toward the closet. Something felt wrong in a way I cannot fully explain. Not panic, not yet. More like a cold wire running down my spine. Dean stepped out of the closet with a duffel bag in one hand and a look of anger he had not bothered to hide before. He was dressed for travel, which meant he had been planning to leave or planning to make sure someone else could not. He saw me and smiled in that thin, insulting way men smile when they think age has made a person slow. "Sir," he said, too calm, "this is not your concern." My daughter made a sound then, a tiny one, and started shaking her head. That was all I needed. I said, "Move away from her." He laughed, and that laugh changed the room. I watched his shoulders square, saw him glance toward the hallway, and understood he expected help. Maybe from a friend, maybe from his own confidence. Maybe he thought I was too old to matter. He had made his whole life out of underestimating people. He made 1 step toward me. I made 1 step toward him. That is when he realized I was not bluffing. I did not rush. I did not shout. I simply closed the space between us and took the duffel bag from his hand, hard enough to make him lose balance. He tried to recover, but his body was already late. My daughter gasped and backed into the bed frame, both hands over her mouth. Dean threw a wild swing at me, and I turned it aside, then drove him back into the closet door. The wood cracked. He blinked like he could not believe this was happening in his own house. "Dad," my daughter whispered, voice breaking. "He took my passport." That was the reveal inside the reveal. Not just fear, not just shouting. He had been getting ready to run with her documents, her savings, and the laptop that held every account she had built since college. He had isolated her for months, cut her off from her sister, told her I was overbearing, told her she was too emotional to manage money, told her, according to the files I later found, that if she ever left him, no one would believe her because he was the one with the polished resume and the clean smile. I looked at him then, and I felt something colder than anger, bitterness, because I knew men like this. I had seen them overseas and at home. Different clothes, same appetite. They did not need to be loud. They only needed control. Dean raised both hands and said, "This is insane. She's upset. She doesn't know what she's saying." My daughter let out a sharp, ugly laugh through tears. "You hid my passport in your office safe. You told me not to tell him." She looked at me like she was ashamed and relieved all at once. "He said if I called you, he'd make it look like I was unstable." No silence in that room felt big enough for what she had just said. I reached into my jacket and finally pulled out my phone. One call. That was all I needed. I did not need to be a hero. I needed to be precise. While the line rang, Dean's face changed. That polished confidence went flat. His eyes flicked to the open bedroom window, then to the hallway. He understood too late that he had built his whole plan around one assumption, that nobody in the room knew how to keep their head. The dispatcher answered. I gave the address. I kept my voice even. My daughter looked at me like she had seen a ghost step out of a father. Dean lunged for the phone. I turned my body, blocked him, and pinned him against the wall just long enough for him to stop fighting and start calculating. That was the part I hated most. He was not frightened of hurting people. He was frightened of consequences. There is a difference, and it matters. The police arrived 6 minutes later. Dean tried the performance the second he heard the sirens. He spoke fast, too fast, as if speed could replace truth. He said I had attacked him. He said my daughter was confused. He said the family was under stress. He said a lot of things. But my daughter had already found her voice. She told them about the safe, about the deleted messages, about the private account he opened in her name, about the threats that came wrapped in concern. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold her phone. But she kept going, one truth at a time. Her tears kept falling. And still, she did not stop. I stood beside her, not touching, just there, present, solid, something she could lean on without being asked. When the officer came back downstairs with the passport and the bank papers, Dean's face turned gray. That was the moment I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. He had looked at me and seen an old man. He had looked at my daughter and seen someone easy to pressure. He had mistaken quiet for weakness. Men like that always do. They think the person who says the least is the one with nothing left. They never understand that silence can be trained. Later, after the statements and the questions and the cold coffee at the kitchen table, my daughter sat across from me with swollen eyes and a trembling mouth. She asked me why I had never told her what I used to do. I looked at her hands, still shaking, and then at the blue box she had hidden behind the laundry shelf. The same old metal tin she had used as a child when she wanted me to come help without telling anyone else. The code had worked. She was safe. Dean was not coming back that night because, I said, and my throat tightened, I never wanted you to live like you needed a soldier in the house. She started crying then, quietly this time, and I did too, though I tried not to let her see it. I had gone there expecting a fight. What I found was my daughter, trying to survive a man who smiled too much and planned too carefully. He thought I was soft. He thought she was alone. He was wrong on both counts. So now I need to know something I never had to ask before. When someone underestimates your family, do you warn them once, or do you let the truth arrive the hard way?
You made it to the end. Thank you for staying with me. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe and to be brave for this journey. Thank you.